they say some things.
Hello. Adventure.
Love.
Connection.
Risk.
Passion.
Evolution.
Play.
Life, the Archetypal Tarot Podcast. Provocative mythology for the 21st century.
Aloha, listeners. I am super psyched to share this conversation with you guys. For this episode, it's a conversation between myself and Ke'oni Hanalei. Ke'oni is an alchemist, Hawaiian cultural practitioner, and founder of Pohala Botanicals here on Maui in Kula. Ke'oni comes from a long line of medicine holders who in Hawaii are called kahuna, and his lineage extends far, far, far back in time. He inherited sacred Fern medicine wisdom from his grandmother, Kauike Onalani. We hope you enjoy this conversation with Ke'oni as he and I discuss masculine and feminine energies, emotional intelligence, and what we are called to be and do to fulfill our destinies and the destiny of the planet. So yeah, big stuff. Definitely follow Ke'oni on Instagram at Pohala_Hawaiian_botanicals. Do not miss his stories. He's always dropping some beautiful, beautiful wisdom. And his website is pohala.net. That's POHALA.net. And definitely check the end of the show for a special gift from Ke'oni. And also the word aloha means love. So much more, but for the purpose of this conversation, it means love. Aloha.
Aloha.
I'm so glad that we're getting together.
Mm-hmm.
This is pretty exciting.
It is really exciting.
And so we met like maybe a month or so ago, right? We're doing the hui over Iao Valley.
At Ka'ehu Bay. Yeah, we're doing the kapili.
Yeah.
And, that was a partnership with Tom Penna of Homai Kapono. And so just talking about some really deep ike, ancient ike, about not just like the lunar phases and the power of time and place, but also, how that affects the human avatar. And that segues into what I was speaking of is, emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And the balance between our divine feminine and our divine masculine.
Yes. And then you posted a story on Instagram, and somebody had asked about apathy,
mm-hmm.
which I thought was really interesting. And I think to me, there's a relationship to depression as well.
Right.
And you talked about the relationship, what was happening archetypally in a way of the masculine and feminine. I was like, you need to be on the show. We need to talk.
Yeah.
And so the question, I think it's a perfect question. And if people want to go to your Instagram, you save that story for me. Thank you.
I did.
But that idea of, what happens when you feel that you just don't care, that apathy, nothing's rising up.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share with us your thoughts on what that kind of looks like in terms of masculine and feminine?
Definitely. Yeah, thank you. First, I just want to explain, there's something in the Hawaiian culture called kiakahi. And kiakahi is purpose and meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And the necessary component of purpose and meaning is that our feminine and our masculine components is synthesized and harmonized. And, in today's world, there is such an attachment to matter that many of us really just identify ourselves as either gendered male or gendered female. We don't quite understand that we're equal parts masculine and feminine. And so when we feel into like apathy, hopelessness, depression, it's because we have no true sense of our kiakahi, our purpose and meaning.
Mm.
And so we're sort of wandering this reality, confused and aimless. And so, this has been such an important message for me to, discuss about synthesizing the feminine and masculine components.
I love your language of synthesis too.
Mm.
And harmony. I think that's something we've talked about when we talk about masculine and feminine on the podcast. There's this idea that everything needs to be in balance. And I think balance is good, but I think when we're talking about this, it's not it's, to me, it's not the paradigm or the goal, because balance means you're always moving from one to another, and that there's a fulcrum point that can swing, right? And that takes a lot of energy to go over here, go over there, that kind of balance. But synthesis and harmony, to me, mean both coexist.
Yes.
And they're in harmony, which means their relationship is happy. And they don't become a big gray area. They're in tune with each other. And so that really caught my attention too. And I'm like, yes, synthesis. So there's no longer a war. You know what I mean? There's no boundary of this and that. No, they're just constantly in relationship.
Yeah, you said that so beautifully. And the title of the workshop that we did, Tom and I did, is titled Kapili, and that is the Hawaiian word for synthesis, to bond. Okay, so now we're reaffirming our birthright. We're giving ourselves permission to bond, and that is intimacy. And this begins inward first. In order for us, of course, to bond with one another, our brothers and our sisters, we have to make sure that we ourselves are harmonized so that we can show up and be present for our brothers and our sisters without these expectations that our brothers and our sisters are going to fulfill us somehow. We don't have those expectations because we are fulfilled already, because we're harmonized.
It's huge. So, and we'll look outside ourselves constantly for what is the that or the this, the piece, the person that will create that in us. It at times can feel really like that's the only way, but we never get there.
Yeah, and my tutu, Kawiki Onalani, she was a kahuna, born in Kaupo, and everything I know, truly, she taught me. And the first 5 years of my life, and she taught me that she would say, boy, boy, if you do not deem yourself worthy, then you will simply hijack the will of someone else because you deem their will superior to your own. And so your whole life is just going to be based on expectations and imitations. So deem yourself worthy, proclaim yourself. We say in Hawaiian, kukala, proclaim yourself, tell the world who you are. And now I'm going to segue into masculine and feminine, okay? So the feminine, when I talk about kukala and proclamations, a proclamation is very feminine because it's the feminine, our feminine component, which has the capacity to dream, has the capacity to design an idea. That's very significant, okay? However, it doesn't stop there, yeah? Our proclamations, our kukala. It means nothing if we don't create results. That is our masculine. Our masculine does the hana, the action.
The work.
Right. He inherits the dream. Moi uhane, from the feminine, because she deems herself worthy to offer it to the masculine. And the masculine is humbled by that gesture and receives it from the feminine and then moves it. Kahe, moves it, creates results. So we begin by saying, tell us who you are. That's the feminine. Now show us. That's the masculine.
Yeah.
And that's that beautiful synthesis. That's the whole human, is that we are in complete integrity. And this is how we offer ourselves to our brothers and our sisters, and this is how we bond.
And it's this constant, I don't even want to call it a cycle, because it's not necessarily one and then the other, one and then the other. Although you can think of it as kind of rotary, right, happening within us, where the dream is there, the action is taking place, but they're constantly in relationship with each other.
Right.
Because I think the action part is like, ooh, I just hit something, I don't know what to do. Go back to the feminine, to the imagination, the knowingness there to say, so they're constant. It's a constant thing, not just marching orders, go. I'm going to sit back and have bonbons. Although bonbons are good,
Yeah, and this happens simultaneously. It's hard for a lot of people to fathom that now because our frequency is so stunted and slow that we cannot fathom that oscillations and vibrations can be so rapid that we experience that simultaneously. The beauty with that is when we allow ourselves to exist simultaneously within this synergistic flow of the masculine and feminine, is that we no longer seek alternatives because we are totally aware in recognition of all the tools that surround us. We're not in lack. And so, yeah, that's a beautiful point you're saying. It's happening at all times.
It's something I have been spending a lot of time trying to not understand, but be just remembering. That's something that's coming up for me, is just remember. This is already here. It's already happening, but just remember, because I think it's that, to me, it's the intellectual part too that wants to not have emotions. You know, again, it's that kind of control. And I really would like to talk about the heart of your work is emotional intelligence. Your lineage, your inheritance, your kuleana is working with the Fern medicine and emotional intelligence. And I don't think it's from the perspective that you bring very well understood. So I'm super excited to have you on the podcast.
Yes.
To be able to kind of share that out, because I sense that a very Western belief of emotional intelligence is some sort of corporate test before you get a job. You know, they're doing that now. There's a thing called emotional intelligence.
Right.
But so I'd love to hear about that. And you talk a lot on your Instagram and on your website about the collapse of the victim. And so that's a huge archetype. We probably need a week to talk about this. But the relationship, because that's the most easy to identify archetype, I think, for everybody, whether they want to or not, is everybody's been hurt. Everybody has a wound. Everyone is therefore, you know, has a sense of the victim. And that in what I work with is the possibility of the victim, the like, what did that process do for you? What did it take away from you that you didn't need anymore? What did you learn? Did your heart open from that? Are you more present in the world because of it? And then, of course, we're all really familiar with the pathology of the victim, of, you know, being disempowered, hurting other people because you've been hurt. So whichever you want to start with, the victim, its relationship to, I mean, they're naturally related, emotional intelligence, the presence of emotions.
Certainly. And, you know, what you're saying, what you're talking about, you know, about the victim is, you know, we are transforming the victim. We're not escaping or avoiding the victim. And that's how we finish it. And that's something that my tutu taught me, is that, you know, we don't escape, we finish things, we complete things. And there is a saying, the only way to resolve the violent karmic cycle is to complete it. As simple as that. So, my mokuahau is linked to something called pua ehu ehu, and that's Fern medicine. And Fern medicine correlates to emotional intelligence. There are 103 native Hawaiian ferns that correlate to 103 human emotions. Okay, I call this the principles of aloha. One of the most common questions I get, what is the fern of love? That's like my favorite one. I want to work with that fern.
Yeah, just give me the aloha.
I want that one.
I want a big cup of aloha right now.
Well, there is none.
Sorry, folks, you can't order it on the internet.
That's why I call the whole spectrum the principles of aloha, because truly we really must integrate and express all 103 human emotions in order for us to even comprehend the totality of aloha, of love. And truly, this was purposeful. You know, the power of love, it would destroy the human body. It would just collapse the animate world. And that's all our birthright. That's where all we're headed. We're going to collapse this 3D world, this world of animation, this world of matter. But we're here now. And we're being offered 103 emotions. And it's saying, now, integrate this. Become indoctrinated into these. And you graduate into the totality of love. And that's when this reality will collapse and we ascend. So with human emotions, we rarely ever acknowledge our emotions within their moment to express themselves within their now. We separate them,
put them in boxes,
right? That's control in two spectrums, I say. Okay, one is we put them in this box, like you're saying, in this box of fear and aversion. I don't want to deal with you. You're too frightening. I don't know how I can control you. Things like pain, things like grief, we put them far away. So we're shaming them. They're shamed. They're betrayed. And then on the other end of the spectrum, in that other box, it's lack and craving. For instance, there's a Fern makali'i. It holds the codes to euphoria. Mm-hmm. There's aiha'a, glee. Even when we're experiencing that, the first thing that comes to mind is, how can I control you to make you stay? Mm-hmm. Or, I don't have enough of you. I want more. So there's all these expectations being put upon these emotions. So rarely do we experience them in their now. Because we're not present in our now, we are constantly in this energy of the victim. Things are happening to us, at us. We're not responsible for these things because we're totally not present.
That's not easy.
Right.
Just to state the obvious. So everybody listening is going, well, you mean I need to feel my emotions as they happen?
Right. And there's a practice I do whenever I'm met with a sensation, and especially the uncomfortable ones, I will pause. Very feminine. Okay. Very feminine. I will pause and I will say 3 times with my eyes closed, I'm integrating. I'm integrating. I'm integrating. And I will allow that sensation to simply express itself as it wants to. You begin to do this, you create a momentum, and you will begin to understand what your emotions truly want to express. And it is very powerful. The moment I did that and I created this momentum where it's now second nature for me to just allow emotions to express themselves before I react to them, I began to see that victim mentality totally different. I began to see that victim, and it was a visual thing for me, as a 1-year-old Keoni, Mia, and it was just learning how to walk, and it was grabbing onto my leg. And it was saying, aren't I doing what you want me to do? Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
Aren't I doing what you want me to do? Full accountability, full responsibility. Yeah. We are creators. We are not victims. And it was such a beautiful moment when I could look down, be face to face with that wounded part of me, right? Mm-hmm. That child, vulnerable, yeah? Mm-hmm. Could hardly walk, And I just looked and I said, yes, you've done everything I've asked you to do. Thank you.
That is huge. That is huge. The path that I don't know for how many years been working with in relationship is compassion. Mm-hmm. Because for me anyway, the hard-headed person that I am, it's permission to feel the emotion, but a little compassion first lets me feel it. Mm-hmm. So it's, I'm not sure I've ever articulated this out loud, but the internal process for me and kind of a literal breakthrough, because I broke something in my house years ago and I was about to beat myself up for it and, do the,
right.
the whole, I mean, it's just dumb, right? I was on my way out, spilled a cup of coffee, it broke, I needed to clean it up. All that was a microcosm of how I would deal with anything in my life that was uncomfortable or feel like I did wrong or someone hurt me. It didn't matter. All of that was contained in that coffee cup getting dropped that I could have prevented. But I'd been studying and reading about compassion, and I let myself have compassion, or I gave myself permission, was like, of course I feel bad. I'm in a hurry. And I really kind of feel like that was stupid, but my entree into that was this mixture of compassion and acceptance. Like, this is what's happening.
Yes.
Here's how I feel about it. And that compassion to me made it okay to have the feeling that it didn't feel good.
Mm-hmm.
It just felt bad.
Yeah.
It just, that, and those two were like alchemized together of, I can have compassion for that. And so the amount of people that I have met in my life, both previous clients, myself, and the resistance to compassion, to feeling the feels, as the kids say, is astounding sometimes. Where that is, but I'm like, that is exactly the breakthrough. I mean, I'm not an ascended being by any means, but I know that breakthrough of being able to feel the emotion, to make it okay, to have the compassion, to see yourself as that child, and just, there's so much there's so much aloha that happens in that moment, that the emotion, usually the one that you don't want to feel, doesn't necessarily stick around.
Right.
For me anyway, not always, but it flows itself back in. So yeah, that was for me, and that entree of, and I take it as almost a sign of people's resistance, the great resistance. Like, that means it's important.
Yeah,
that means it's really important.
For sure. That's been my experience too. Whenever I feel true resistance, I'm like, oh, I need to go into this.
Yeah.
You touch base on something really important. Like, you're talking about compassion, and in our, I'm from Hawaiian Mu lineage, and in our mythology, our creator, whose name is Kamehameha, the purpose of this reality, the kiakahi of this very reality, is something called aloha ma, and that's self-reflective love. So it's that compassion you speak of, and I definitely feel you on this. Many people, a lot of people may have a capacity to offer compassion to things outside of themselves.
Oh, and their friends and their family and their dogs and their cats.
Yeah. And if it's genuine or if it's not, if it's a performance or if it's not, I don't know.
Yeah.
I could just speak for myself, and it was. I was compassionate because it was a role for me to play so that I could become accepted.
It's a good way to get approval.
Right. To get approval and to get admiration. But I did not offer even the performance to myself. Aloha ma, self-reflective love. And I personally had to go through some very intense trauma in order for me to finally make the decision, will I stay or will I go? Right? Yeah. Do I stay or do I go? And when the decision was made, I remembered my agreement here on Ki, on Earth, Honua. I said, okay, the only foundation is aloha ma, self-reflective love. And that's when I'm like, okay, it's got to be all about self-compassion, self-love, self-reflective admiration. And then that was so filling for me that everything I offer my brothers and my sisters, it's no longer a performance, it's overflow.
And I am witness to that. The second I met you, I was like, wow, so much aloha. Just, wow. Yeah, it's a big, this is something that it's been a theme probably my whole life, this understanding of compassion, and it's a big conversation, I think, for a lot of people, especially women, because women, I think, in general, we can have that conversation. It's kind of like a thing that we can do. Yeah. It's okay. With men too, but this idea of, in relationship to friends, family, and in a romantic relationship, there's this whole idea of like, well, you can have so much love and compassion for other people. And then some people say, oh, well, if you don't have it for yourself, it's not real. My theory is it's like you get this light version, this like filmy, not complete version of compassion and love for other people. And you can probably exist your whole life just having that. And they can have love and admiration for you, but it's that piece where you have the worth and the love and the compassion for yourself that busts the whole damn thing open. So it's like you don't even know what you're missing until you've you've done that and then built whatever it is that practice, or let your kane, let your masculine help build spaces for you to be able to do that. But those experiences of self-compassion, which then I think builds worth, you know, it reminds you of who you really are, and that's not overbearing to anyone else. It's just presence with a capital P. That piece, then you recognize that what you thought was just love and compassion before was like the tiny watered down version.
Right.
So I don't say, oh well, it's not real. It's like, it's just super light. It's
the
free version of the app that doesn't actually do anything.
Yeah. And you know, when you know, when I began to really proclaim myself and deem myself worthy, and thus then really express true aloha, that's the only moment that I realized that my whole life was a performance. Of course, during the performance, I had no idea it was a performance. I thought that's what was who I am, you know? And it wasn't until I deemed myself worthy, made my proclamation, okay, my feminine, I allowed my feminine to proclaim herself. This is my dream. This is my idea, okay? I allowed my masculine to humble himself and to receive that dream from the feminine. That reinstituted for him purpose and meaning. Now he understands why he's moving. Now he understands flow, kahe. And in that instance, the feminine reaffirmed her purpose and meaning because she got to see her dream proliferate.
Right.
It wasn't until that time that I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
My whole life has been a performance.
Well, it's fine. I'm trying to... we've languaged this. I think you're languaging it a really, really brilliant way. But the thing that's coming up, I was like, okay, and it's not about the ego. This is something from a much deeper foundational level that is happening within, and I think you can always tell. You know, if you meet somebody or a teacher, whether they're really coming from this kind of ego part, which I think is important. I'm not in the camp of get rid of the ego. You know, Michael Mead, a teacher, says that the ego has got the keys to the ashram. You know, kind of, it can get you to the door, kind of thing. But the discovery piece and the living in this deeper part, I don't know. I can instinctually tell when somebody is really coming from an ego level, or whether they're just like, this is their proclamation. Right. And I just see, for me anyway, I see confusion about what that proclamation is, and the worth, and where is it coming from? Is it the ego? Because I think that's something that the ego wants to do to get attention. But this is about meaning and not attention, right? That's the big difference.
Yeah. And, you know, so the false ego, the false ego is very insecure, and so it requires the validations of others, and that's why it comes across as so arrogant, right? Like,
or brittle.
Yeah, validate me, confirm me, and doing it in such a way that it's very pompous, and that's the false ego. And there is a healthy ego, and that's the ego that allows itself to proclaim its worth, its will. And it says, this is who I am. But once again, that means nothing unless we show results. We create something from that. And that's true discipline. And that really resolves if it's a false ego or a true ego.
Yeah. Or focus, right? Because I don't think the ego has great focus. That, I forget, there's a Hawaiian word for focused attention on something which is necessary in relationship to all these other things. I don't remember the word. I was just reading it. But, no, I can't remember now. It happens to be all the time where I'm all, there's this thing. It's sitting over there. It's not ready to walk into my brain right now. But,
you know, like, fundamentally, it all comes down to, you know, what we call oya ego, which is truth. And something else my tutu taught me, she said, you know, boy, there's nothing more uncomfortable you will ever experience in your entire life than your own truth. To go in. Yeah. Because we are so conditioned, and we are a culture conditioned to imitate because we don't deem our will worthy.
Yeah.
Okay. and then also to obey. To obey. And our truth, it cannot be confined.
Right.
So in order to honor our oyo i'o, our truth, we must, with our feminine, kukala, proclaim it. Tell the world our truth. Even when it's raw and dirty, and sister, it's gonna be raw and dirty.
That's interesting. I love that word for truth.
Oya i'o.
How is it spelled?
O-I-A.
A-I Okina. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a beautiful word in and of itself.
It is.
It has the sound of what it is.
Yeah, and there is a hidden sound in there. You know, it's the word that normally is not spoken.
Right. Sorry, it's on a podcast now. If you couldn't have it.
But you know, and that is one of the most sacred sounds to make because it does have such sacred meaning in that word. And yeah, so you know, we proclaim with our feminine our truth. We deem ourselves worthy, and we deem our truth worthy to be heard. And then our masculine creates the results. It shows what the truth looks like, feels like, smells like, tastes like.
And you absolutely have to have both happening.
You must.
Yeah.
You must. Otherwise, one discredits the other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's the performance. That's the performance. That's the imitations. And that's us obeying because our collective, this culture, I like to call it the culture of control.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it lies to us and it tells us these are the standards to which you should live by in order for you to be accepted. And that's what it really comes down to. It says, if you want to be accepted, if you want to be part of a community, do this, 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 and that. Say this, say that. And your truth will not be found in that. It just simply won't. It simply won't. So, you know, we all have to be so courageous right now. Deem ourselves worthy, deem our truth worthy, and then show people. Tell people.
Yeah, there's so much. We're really kind of shoveling out a lot of shame. I
Big
think
time.
for people who are, especially if you're raised, hey, I mean, half Jewish, half Catholic, it's all my fault. I'm killing my mother and I'm going to hell. Like both things are happening. So what occurs to me, I was at Easter and I kind of consider that a rebirth day, right? It's celebrated in all different cultures, especially this idea of a risen Christ, all of that. And a few people sent me messages and I texted them back. I made this little screensaver wallpaper for my phone and it just says, help me to believe the truth about who I am, no matter how beautiful it is. Mm-hmm. And that to me just feels like, and right now I'm seeing it as almost an antidote to this shame that, you know, we've all kind of been raised with, whether our parents realized it or not. Shame is a way to control people. And I don't think anyone knows what to do with shame other than just feel horrible and hide in a corner and make decisions about yourself that are untrue. Yeah. So my question for you, and maybe it's just because I'm a little bit confused. So I have a sense that I understand that like sitting in the truth is going to be like, it's going to be the most uncomfortable thing you're going to feel. Would that be because all of that stuff is getting burned away? Yeah. And that's really, really uncomfortable. Yes. And I think where I am right now in my life, the bigger questions, if it's all aloha, like how does evil exist? So we don't have to discuss that. That's too big. But the sitting in the truth of who I am I able to make an assumption that there's a lot of aloha there? Or
yes.
Is it all aloha?
Oh, it is all aloha.
It's all aloha.
It is all aloha. And yeah, I love that you're clarifying. Yes, the discomfort is because of the conditioning. Yeah. You know, and it's all those voices, everything saying that, you know, you won't be accepted. You won't be a part of a community if you express yourself in such a way.
and you'll never be able to relate to anybody else. That's like a different
Right.
level. So if we, like on the chakra levels, right, the first
Yeah.
ones, you won't be safe. The
Mm-hmm.
tribe is not going to accept you.
Right.
And you can go a little bit higher up where it's like, I'll never, there's 3 people in the world that have actually sat in this truth. I'll never be able to connect to anyone but those 3 people. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's my own little neurotic kind
Right.
of like, that doesn't even make sense when you touch even a little bit of that, in my experience. That doesn't make sense anymore. That idea that you can't connect to anybody because you've gotten this sense of that, it's like the opposite is true. Opposite is true.
You're so right on about that. And like me talking about Mu culture, this and talking about Lua and talking about other things that have been very kapu.
Very huna.
Very huna in the Hawaiian community. And in the beginning, I was met with a lot of shaming and condemnations and rejection and even retaliation. But because I was so devoted to my oi'o, my truth, that was no longer any of my concern. None of that shaming, no longer. And it's so beautifully how it has blossomed now, where a lot of I've been embraced, by the Hawaiian community. And then also, a lot of Hawaiians at this time are not willing to participate, but now they're witnessing. It's almost as if they're like, I just want to watch and see what happens. And then maybe when I feel comfortable, I'll step up and I'll start, revealing my mo'oku ohau and the ike from my ohana too. So I've seen it in just a short while, how this is just changing so rapidly, where it goes from people, feeling very threatened by your truth, very threatened, and then retaliating, to all of a sudden witnessing and being inspired by it.
Stepping into an incredibly, from my perspective, being, non-Hawaiian from, all different cultures, the incredible the gift of Hawaiian people and other indigenous cultures, because it's not just happening in Hawaii.
Right.
It's happening all over the world,
right.
where there is like a, from my perspective, in talking with people and observing things, a real power, a real like rightness of standing in that and owning it in a way that is contributive and beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's like that can, I suspect, or is burning off some of the horrible, through colonization, all of those things. It is almost like this beautiful turning to realize that like this is where the truth is lying.
Yeah.
You have it.
Yeah.
It is in your DNA. It's in your ancestors.
Right.
And that is incredibly special and necessary.
Yeah.
And I am so humbled by so much of it, and honor it in such a big way. And, the connectivity and things that happen. And I think people just know too. They just know sometimes. They're like, okay, yeah, there's, stuff is happening and people are connecting in ways that I didn't imagine happening.
My tutu said that the couple would be lifted when the time is hemolele, or perfect. And she said, boy, you'll know. And after my bout with trauma, okay, I tried to refuse it. I felt it. I heard it. I would go in the hele in nature, and it would just say, it's hemolele. It was like a chant. And I rejected it because it was too frightening, because I felt like this would disconnect me from my community. But I decided to commit to it. And I mean, my gosh, the fulfillment, because I understand my purpose. I understand my kiakahi. It's been so beautiful. And the Native Hawaiian people and the Native American people, because what happened with kapu and huna, and I'm not sure what they call it in North America, but we just felt the need to preserve the purity of the ike, and that's why so much had to be hidden. And that's why when Tutu said the kapu will be lifted when the time is hemolele, was very resonated with me, because it allowed me to understand that our world is ready.
Yeah.
And I need not possess the ike any longer. It wants to be freed. And I have conversations with people every day that I'm just like, these are such beautiful conversations. People are really allowing themselves to speak their thoughts, hints of their truth, sort of getting their feet wet.
Yeah.
Just kind of gauge, like, is this safe, but it's happening now. It's like,
oh yeah, I feel it too.
Uh-huh.
Same thing. And just to explain to listeners, kapu, I mean, Hawaiian words probably have 5 meanings, at least 3. And it's true. I think it's beautiful. I mean, it's helping my brain work differently to not have a linear, sort of like it's this or this.
Right.
But kapu is, you explain it better than me.
Sure. Yeah, kapu derives from actually a Tongan language of taboo. And many of you are familiar with the word taboo. And in Hawaiian, we would even consider it a little more intense because we would consider things that are kapu forbidden. So that's how we just respect the natural flow of things. And a lot of things we will place in moratorium to preserve its purity and to ensure it does not become contaminated.
So forbidden doesn't mean forbidden because it's bad. It means it's protected. It's sacred.
Exactly. Protected and sacred. It always come back to the sacred. Yeah. And it's not forbidden because it's exclusive. Not at all. It comes back to sacredness.
And huna is hidden, secret, also protected.
And for the same reasons. Yeah. To ensure its purity and to ensure it does not become contaminated.
And my sense is there's a ton of humility and respect around all of that. Like the relationship of humility and respect around both anything kapu or anything huna, from that to me is like the essence. When anyone's coming to Hawaii, I say, first thing you need to have is respect, no matter what. Just have respect. And like, it's a good reminder for people, because I think it should be everywhere. But like, you show up on this island with some respect, things will probably go pretty well for you. Just start with that. And then you realize that the aloha is in that. You know?
Yeah, the power of ho'ihi, or respect. It's all about the ability to pause. To pause and to be aware of our surroundings, to be aware of what surrounds us, of who surrounds us. That is the definition of respect.
Yeah.
It's just
awareness.
Yeah. And how we participate with all that is around us.
So true. I have learned tons living here. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah. One special thing about Hawaii is, we have something called mana. Mana really can't be translated.
No, the more I learn about it, I'm like, it's not chi, it's not prana.
With lack of it's like life force.
It's creative life force, though. Yeah. It's something that's alive and it's always in process.
It's a
you
life
can totally
force.
tell me when I'm wrong, by the way. No, you can be like, no, Jules.
It is creative life force, and it spins at an oscillation, and it is what sustains our spirit, our soul.
Yeah.
And in Hawaii, we have maintained this energy so beautifully.
That's why everybody wants to come here.
It is alive.
It really
everywhere
is.
Here, and it gives much promise. That something so sacred, so beautiful, has been so well preserved and willing to touch the lives of so many people.
It's the saddest thing to me is seeing people who come here and they're so closed off from it. And even people who live here, but visitors, I live in where it's kind of a tourist town, so I see visitors all the time. And, when I just see somebody who's like, you can tell they're just set. I'm like, I'm going to have a good time, and I'm here. And they're just miserable. I'm like, oh, put your butt on the ground for a minute. Yeah. Like, all you need to do is sit on the aina, which means land, and just let that sink in. Get in the ocean. Feel it. You don't need to do anything.
Right.
Oh yeah, so yeah. Besides cranky tourists, that relationship,
You know,
I feel bad for them, but
many people call this a feminine shift. Okay, that we're
mm-hmm.
moving into a feminine shift, and it's as I've been explaining before. The feminine is a space of pause. You know, pause, awareness, how we can be aware, and I work with Fern medicine, plant medicine. And the beautiful thing about tuning in with nature, what we call nature Nahele, is that nature is immune to untruths.
Yeah.
It does not know untruths. It will not tolerate untruths. We see the way nature plays out. It does not seek alternatives. It is content in its moment.
There's no identity crisis.
There is no identity. They don't implement roles or labels upon themselves. So whenever I go into nature, I tune in. I'll tune in via telepathy, and they will tell me the tale.
Mm-hmm.
They will tell me the tale of their truth, and it is so inspiring. It has given me the fuel
Mm-hmm.
to proclaim my own oi'i'o, my own truth. And so I totally encourage all our brothers and our sisters, step out into nature, connect. There is no criteria. There's no criteria. That's up to you. Remember, This is a proclamation. You tell us. You show us. No more imitations. And nature, the natural world, will teach us how to do that. How to be firm in who we are, how to proclaim it, our feminine, and then how to show, how to create results, our masculine.
Receive, that's something that I feel a lot when I'm feeling interacting with nature. I live here, so I realize that there's almost no choice of it's just opening awareness, but there's receiving it.
Mm-hmm.
For me, still, kind of suffering from a very Western intellectual, action-oriented mind, that it's the feminine receptivity to just, all I have to do is nothing. It's just be open to receive. And that I think, we are our own best teachers, our own souls, our, whatever you want to call our omakua, that connectivity is our best teacher. But we are not set up to trust ourselves.
Yeah, and what this requires, and we're talking about the genders now. Okay? Mm-hmm. What this requires is to collapse hierarchy, because this plays out in nature as well. A lot of people won't connect to the pua, the flower. They won't connect to the tree because they deem themselves superior somehow. Mm-hmm. This is the human condition right now.
There's got power over it.
Yeah. So we must, in order to connect, is to collapse hierarchy.
Realize we're parts. We're part of each other. I posted yesterday for a picture actually from the hui that we were doing it was a pohako and a tea leaf in the bowl of the kai. Were you there when we did that?
No, I wasn't. I know. So amazing though.
Two times. The black sand made exactly the same pattern. Wow. If you look on my Instagram, I posted it, and I was like, "Oh, gee, what do I say? Happy Earth Day." Every day is Earth Day, but really, all I said was just, it was we're part of nature. Nature is our family. Mm-hmm. This is all connected, and just remember.
Yeah,
the is in us. That knowledge is in us. So just remember. And so, of course, you want to connect. You want to connect with all that is, and that we're not the kings of everything with dominion over it.
Right.
Everything we need is there, and everything it needs, we can, be a part of.
And we, bonding and intimacy is just not something internal and between human beings. It's with nature.
Yeah.
Bonding and intimacy is super important. I used to say the word a lot, or this phrase, I feel so alone, because I didn't feel understood, or I felt shamed or rejected. So I used to feel that.
Right.
I used to say, oh, I feel so alone. Since I've opened up my consciousness to Nahele, to nature, I do not feel alone. I cannot feel alone. I am always surrounded by such support, and their tales that they tell me, their truth. It's everywhere, and it can be accessed at all times.
At all times.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at a different level of that. I feel like I'm very polite with nature sometimes. There's this like we're very just like
high five.
A high five, you know, if I'm making lei or I'm collecting pohaku for something for a ceremony. Yeah, I just kind of, it was a good reminder that I'm maybe a little a politeness of you know, so much honor, but the remembering the constant connectivity. Constant connectivity.
The first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is I locate the sun, the light.
Yeah.
And that's my first friend for the day. I have a dialogue with La. If it's still at night, it's Mahina. It's the moon.
Yeah.
And I have a dialogue with the moon, you know? Just that light.
Yeah.
The contact with that light is that relationship, and I have that dialogue. I'm never alone.
Yeah. I get that feeling too. I don't have to think about it as much as I used to.
Yeah.
I don't have the, oh my gosh, I'm lonely or whatever. I'm pretty darn content. Just, you know, that relationship, it's so present. Mm-hmm. And I'm aware of it. I think that might be for me the big, it's like, I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. This has been wonderful. We didn't talk as much about ferns, but I think people really need to just go to your website, pohala.net, and check out all of the beautiful things that you're an alchemist. So we're just archetypes here. Alchemist,
yes,
amongst many other things, and divine child as well. You know, just a archetypal diagnosis. But most definitely, people check out the website and follow. Your Instagram is the bomb diggity bomb.
Oh, mahalo.
Every day. If I only watch one story, it's going to be because you're doing exercises with people. Mm-hmm. You are sharing so much knowledge and from just a connection place that I think anybody watching could be like, oh yeah. So if you are deep in the funk or just really, really curious, there's so much there. Mahalo, brother. Mahalo,
thank you so much, sister. And thank you so much to everyone tuning in. It's just been my honor.
We should give him a big aloha, yeah?
Yeah.
Aloha.
We know that you could have done something else with the last 40-ish minutes of your life, but we are so glad that you spent it with us. Connect with Keoni on Instagram. His handle is pohala_Hawaiian_botanicals. And he has a special gift for podcast listeners. Use the code FERN15 for 15% off purchases from his website. And you definitely have to check it out because he has so much information on emotional intelligence, Fern medicine, Hawaiian culture, and so many amazing fern oils, tinctures, and so much more. So just go on over to pohala.net. That's POHALA.net. And as ever, big thanks to our patrons, Sarah, Geneva, Richard, Peter, Rash, Ali, and Yvonne. Thank you. Your support makes all of this happen, and you make us smile every day. Archetypal Tarot Podcast is produced by Both And Media, and our theme music is by The Lunar Group. Until next time, aloha!